Some people don't break your doors, they break your peace. And if you don't recognize them early, they will quietly turn your home into a battlefield. Today, I'm going to reveal 5 types of people who can spiritually drain, emotionally poison, and silently sabotage your household. And why removing them is not cruelty, it's protection. My friend, before we begin, hear this clearly. Your house is not just a building, it's a spiritual atmosphere. It carries the fragrance of your faith, the echoes of your prayers, and the foundation of your future. But the enemy does not always come as a roaring lion. Sometimes he comes disguised as a familiar voice, a friendly visitor, or a comfortable relationship. You must listen to the very end, because one of the 5 people I'll mention is someone most believers never recognize until it is too late. Many homes are struggling not because of demons, but because of doors left open to the wrong people. Today, I speak to you with urgency and clarity. Protecting your home is protecting your destiny. Your home is far more than the place where you sleep, eat, or rest. It is the birthplace of your thoughts, the training ground for your emotions, and the chamber where your faith is either strengthened or weakened. The environment within your home has the power to shape your attitudes, influence your decisions, and ultimately determine the trajectory of your destiny. When someone steps into your house, they are not just entering your physical space. They are entering the atmosphere that governs your inner world. And because of that, every person who crosses your threshold carries something, a mindset, an energy, a belief system, a spiritual atmosphere that can either build you or drain you. This is why you must be deeply intentional about who you allow into the place where your destiny is incubated. Every major transformation, every spiritual breakthrough, every vision that God deposits in your heart often begins in the place of quiet reflection, your home. It is in your house that you dream, pray, plan, and prepare. If the environment around you is disturbed or contaminated, it becomes difficult to hear clearly, to think deeply, or to grow spiritually. Your home is like soil. Whatever is planted there will grow, whether you want it to or not. If peaceful, encouraging, faith-filled voices enter your home, they nourish what God is growing in you. But if negative, discouraging, spiritually draining people walk freely into your space, they become weeds that choke the seeds of your purpose. Many people underestimate the invisible influence others carry. A single conversation can plant anxiety. A careless comment can produce insecurity. A judgmental remark can shrink your confidence. A mocking tone can quench your enthusiasm. When such people enter your home again and again, they do not simply visit, they leave traces of their atmosphere behind. Their attitude lingers in the air long after they leave. Their negativity settles into the walls. Their doubts linger in your mind. Their spiritual heaviness sits in the room like a shadow. Without realizing it, your home becomes a place where you are constantly fighting to restore your peace, rather than building your future. Your home must be guarded with wisdom because destiny is fragile in its early stages. A dream is vulnerable until it is established. Vision is delicate while it is growing. Your spiritual strength is easily weakened when you are constantly exposed to people who speak against your calling, question your choices, or belittle your faith. Some people do not intentionally sabotage your destiny, but their presence is incompatible with what God is trying to build in you. They may love you, but their mindset is too small for where you are going. They may care about you, but their perspective is too negative for the atmosphere you need. They may be familiar, but their influence is too heavy for the environment required to nurture your destiny. You become what you repeatedly hear, absorb, and allow near you. And because your home is where most of your private battles take place, your fears, your prayers, your hopes, it is crucial that the people who enter that space do not disrupt the spiritual climate you are cultivating. A home filled with doubt becomes a breeding ground for hesitation. A home filled with criticism becomes a birthplace for insecurity. A home filled with fear becomes a container for small living. And all of this begins with who has access to your environment. Guarding your home is not about rejecting people, it is about protecting purpose. It is about recognizing that some individuals carry discouragement like a perfume. They do not mean harm, but they release it everywhere they go. Some carry chaos like a habit. Wherever they step, confusion follows. Some carry spiritual dryness. They drain the atmosphere of prayer and bring in the fog of distraction. Others carry unbelief. They speak against your faith without realizing they are damaging your spiritual sensitivity. When such individuals enter your home frequently, their influence begins to overpower your focus, and what should be a sanctuary gradually becomes a battlefield. Your home should be a place where your faith grows freely. It should be where your dreams are spoken out loud without fear of ridicule. It should be where your mind rests, not where it wrestles. It should be where your heart finds stillness, not where it absorbs unnecessary burdens. But when the wrong people are allowed into your inner environment, they can shift the emotional temperature of your home. They may bring arguments, tension, heavy conversations, or subtle criticisms that unsettle the atmosphere. And the more sensitive your spirit is, the more these disruptions affect you. A house is not protected only by locks on doors. It is protected by boundaries around your peace. Some people come not to steal physical possessions, but to steal your clarity, your energy, your joy. They lower the vibration of your environment. They interrupt the flow of growth. They introduce confusion into your routines. Sometimes you find yourself feeling exhausted after they leave, even if physically nothing happened. That exhaustion is a sign that their spirit is not aligned with the future God is leading you toward. When you begin to rise in life, destiny requires separation from certain influences. Not separation out of anger, but separation out of necessity. Some people cannot go with you because they cannot grow with you. Some cannot stay close because the weight of their negativity will slow your progress. Some cannot enter your home because their presence will suffocate the vision residing within your walls. God often promotes people by first purifying their environment, and the purification starts with discerning who is allowed into your personal space. Your home must be filled with voices that speak life, not voices that speak limitations. It must host people who build, not people who break. It must welcome those who carry peace, not those who carry turbulence. Every time someone walks into your house, they are either watering your purpose or weakening it. They are either confirming your faith or contradicting it. They are either strengthening your atmosphere or scattering it. The destiny of a person is strongly connected to the environment they live in daily, because environment shapes emotion, emotion shapes decisions, and decisions shape destiny. Not everyone connected to you is meant to be part of your journey. Relationships are not merely social conveniences. They are spiritual alignments that can either accelerate your growth or subtly hinder your progress. Every individual who comes into your life carries an influence. Some are meant to uplift you, some are meant to challenge you, and some are meant to be a mirror that reflects the parts of you that need transformation. But there are others whose presence is neither helpful nor healthy. They occupy space, drain energy, and cloud judgment. Understanding that not everyone assigned to you is actually meant to stay with you is a critical principle for protecting your future, your peace, and your spiritual development. The truth is that life is filled with connections that are necessary only for a season. Some people enter your life to teach a lesson, others to highlight a truth, and some simply pass through to remind you of your boundaries. Yet so often we confuse familiarity with alignment. We assume that because someone has been present in our lives for a long time, they are meant to journey with us toward our destiny. This assumption can cost us greatly. Many people remain close not because their presence is ordained for your growth, but because of habit, comfort, or emotional attachment. This misalignment can create stagnation in your life and blur the clarity of the path you are called to walk. When you fail to discern the spiritual assignment of those around you, you risk absorbing influences that are incompatible with your calling. Some individuals unknowingly carry negativity, resentment, or fear, and their internal state becomes a silent contaminant in your life. While they may have good intentions, their mindset is not equipped to contribute to your purpose. You might notice that after spending time with them, you feel drained, discouraged, or conflicted. Their words may seem harmless on the surface, but underneath, there is a subtle erosion of confidence, faith, or motivation. Over time, these small erosions accumulate, affecting your emotional and spiritual equilibrium. This is why discernment in relationships is not optional, it is essential. Every relationship you maintain requires energy. Energy that could otherwise be invested in building your dreams, nurturing your family, or deepening your spiritual life is instead spent navigating tension, managing disappointment, or coping with undue influence. People who are not aligned with your destiny often create unnecessary drama or introduce confusion into your decision-making. They question your choices not out of concern, but out of limitation. They offer advice not out of insight, but out of their own fears. They give opinions not to elevate you, but to assert their presence. When you allow such individuals to remain close without discernment, you unwittingly allow your focus to be fragmented, your faith to be questioned, and your peace to be compromised. Not everyone who smiles with you is smiling for you. Not everyone who speaks to you is speaking life into your journey. Some are observers, some are critics, and some are silent competitors. They may not intend to harm you, but their alignment is not in harmony with your vision. They operate on a different frequency, one that subtly interferes with the rhythm of your growth. You can recognize these individuals by observing how you feel after interaction. Are you encouraged, empowered, and clarified, or are you drained, confused, and second-guessing yourself? Alignment brings clarity, peace, and energy. Misalignment brings friction, fatigue, and indecision. Recognizing this difference is crucial because your spiritual and personal journey requires environments that enhance your focus and energy, not diminish them. The danger of remaining connected to misaligned individuals is compounded by familiarity and comfort. Many people remain in relationships because of shared history, emotional bonds, or mutual convenience. They have been around for years, and separating from them feels like breaking a part of oneself. Yet attachment without alignment can stunt growth. A familiar voice that questions your faith, a familiar presence that discourages your vision, or a familiar perspective that undermines your confidence is more harmful than the influence of a stranger. God often uses seasons of separation to refine character, clarify vision, and protect destiny. It is not a matter of rejecting people out of hatred, but recognizing that alignment, not familiarity, determines who should accompany you on your path. Misaligned individuals often present themselves as supportive, but their support is conditional, inconsistent, or misdirected. They may celebrate some aspects of your life while quietly undermining others. Their advice may seem helpful but carries subtle skepticism or fear. Their presence may appear harmless, but gradually influences your choices in ways that are not conducive to your growth. Over time, this misalignment can lead to confusion, self-doubt, or even delayed progress. The cumulative effect of such relationships is often underestimated, yet it can have a profound impact on your trajectory. Destiny is sensitive to alignment. Every decision, every step, and every opportunity is influenced by the people who surround you. It is important to remember that misaligned relationships are not always overtly negative. Some are silent in their influence. They do not argue with you, criticize you openly, or actively oppose you. Instead, they subtly influence your thoughts, shape your emotions, and affect your choices. This is often the hardest type of misalignment to detect because it is quiet, slow, and consistent. By the time you realize the impact, it has already shaped patterns in your life that are difficult to reverse. Learning to recognize these subtle influences is a spiritual discipline. It requires honesty, self-awareness, and the courage to set boundaries for the sake of your growth. When you discern that someone is not aligned with your destiny, separating from them is not an act of cruelty, but an act of preservation. It is an acknowledgement that your home, your mind, and your life are sacred spaces intended for cultivation, not compromise. Maintaining connections with people who are not meant for your path does not honor the relationship, and it does not honor your purpose. It simply allows energy, focus, and faith to be diluted. True alignment supports and propels your growth, challenges you in constructive ways, and provides wisdom that is compatible with your vision. Misalignment distracts, discourages, and depletes. Learning to recognize the difference between alignment and misalignment requires a deep understanding of your calling, your purpose, and your personal boundaries. Alignment is evident in encouragement, clarity, consistency, and peace. Misalignment is revealed in doubt, confusion, fatigue, and resistance. By evaluating relationships through this lens, you gain clarity on who should remain close and who should be respected from a distance. Every relationship carries energy, and every person brings either oxygen to your spirit or weight that slows you down. Choosing alignment over comfort is essential because your growth, peace, and destiny are far too precious to leave to chance. Your inner circle should be intentional, not accidental. People who are aligned with your life purpose encourage your faith, honor your vision, and contribute positively to your environment. They challenge you in ways that refine character, not in ways that drain energy. They celebrate your progress without jealousy, provide counsel without fear, and walk with integrity. In contrast, misaligned individuals often introduce conflict, insecurity, or stagnation into your journey. Recognizing this reality allows you to guard your peace without guilt, to protect your home without hesitation, and to preserve your focus without compromise. Alignment is a spiritual principle that safeguards not only your present but also your future. Separation is often misunderstood as rejection, but in truth, it is one of the most powerful tools for preservation, protection, and progress. Life, purpose, and destiny are delicate, and the environment you surround yourself with can either nurture them or destroy them. God often calls people into seasons of separation, not as a punishment, but as a means of safeguarding the life He has entrusted to them. When we understand that certain boundaries are essential for the preservation of our peace, our focus, and our spiritual development, we recognize that separation is not only necessary, but divinely ordained. It is a principle that the wise embrace and the careless ignore at their own peril. The act of separating oneself from influences that are not beneficial is not a sign of pride or arrogance, but of discernment and obedience. The world often tells us that we must include everyone, remain open to all connections, and tolerate all relationships. But the spiritual reality is that not everyone who seeks access to your life should be allowed to enter your sacred spaces. Just as a gardener prunes a tree to remove dead or overgrown branches, so too must we exercise spiritual pruning in our lives. We remove influences, relationships, and habits that threaten to suffocate our growth, disrupt our peace, or hinder our purpose. Separation, when guided by wisdom, is an act of preservation that protects what is valuable, nurtures what is fragile, and strengthens what is essential. Many people fail to recognize the subtle ways that misalignment can infiltrate their lives. Not every threat comes in the form of overt negativity or obvious conflict. Some threats are quiet, persistent, and almost invisible. They arrive in the form of constant distractions, unproductive attachments, or draining relationships. These influences slowly erode energy, blur focus, and cloud judgment. By the time their impact is fully felt, much of the potential for growth has been compromised. Separation acts as a protective barrier that ensures the sanctity of your mental, emotional, and spiritual environment. It is not reactive, it is proactive. It is not motivated by offense, it is motivated by foresight. The principle of separation applies to every dimension of life. In your spiritual journey, it is essential to distance yourself from influences that weaken faith, undermine confidence, or dilute your vision. Spiritually contaminating environments, whether physical or relational, can prevent you from hearing clearly, discerning accurately, and moving boldly. By separating from these influences, you create space for clarity, direction, and divine alignment. Emotionally, separation allows you to maintain stability, composure, and resilience. Constant exposure to turmoil, criticism, or manipulation can erode emotional strength, leaving you vulnerable to anxiety, doubt, and indecision. When you set boundaries and separate from these forces, you preserve the emotional integrity required to make wise and confident decisions. Separation is also crucial for intellectual and creative preservation. Ideas, insights, and innovation require an environment free from unnecessary noise, distraction, and resistance. When your home or your immediate circle is cluttered with incompatible influences, your ability to think clearly, plan strategically, and innovate effectively is compromised. Separation allows your mind to operate in a space that encourages focus, cultivates clarity, and promotes growth. It is not an act of isolation. It is an act of preparation, allowing your thoughts, strategies, and plans to mature in a conducive environment. Without it, you risk wasting precious time, energy, and potential on influences that are incompatible with your purpose. The necessity of separation becomes even more apparent when considering the protection of your relationships, family, and legacy. Certain influences, if allowed into your home or your inner circle, can disrupt harmony, plant seeds of discord, and destabilize your environment. Protecting your space is not selfish. It is a responsibility. It is an acknowledgement that some individuals, regardless of their intentions, carry energies or patterns that are incompatible with the vision you are called to fulfill. By separating yourself from these influences, you safeguard not only your personal peace, but also the integrity of your family, your home, and your long-term legacy. Separation also serves as a spiritual filter. Just as light is filtered through a lens to focus its power, your environment and relationships must be filtered to ensure that only what strengthens, clarifies, and aligns with your purpose is allowed in. This is not a matter of judgment, but of alignment. God ordained separation as a means of ensuring that you are not hindered by influences that are misaligned with your path. Every person, circumstance, and interaction carries an energy or intention that can either complement or conflict with your growth. Recognizing which influences belong and which do not requires spiritual sensitivity, wisdom, and courage. Furthermore, separation does not mean cutting off compassion, love, or kindness. It does not mean harboring bitterness, resentment, or hatred. Rather, it is an intentional act of maintaining focus, preserving your energy, and protecting the integrity of your mission. It is a discipline that ensures your emotional, spiritual, and physical spaces remain conducive to growth. This discipline often requires difficult decisions such as declining invitations, limiting communication, or redefining boundaries. These actions may be uncomfortable at first, but they are necessary for long-term sustainability, peace, and alignment. Another important aspect of separation is the prevention of compromise. When incompatible influences are allowed into your life or home, you are at risk of gradually adjusting your standards, tolerating behavior that weakens your faith or integrity, and adopting patterns that are not conducive to your purpose. Separation acts as a safeguard, maintaining clarity of values, purity of intention, and fidelity to your calling. It ensures that your decisions, habits, and environment remain consistent with the principles that define your journey. Without separation, the subtle pressures of misalignment can gradually pull you away from your purpose, dilute your influence, and compromise your potential. Separation also protects your spiritual authority. Every home, relationship, and personal sphere has an atmosphere that can be influenced by the presence of others. Some individuals carry spiritual weight that disrupts the flow of blessing, peace, or protection in your environment. By setting boundaries and creating separation, you preserve the spiritual atmosphere necessary for prayer, discernment, and divine connection. This ensures that your spiritual practices, whether private or corporate, are not hindered by conflicting energies or influences. The act of separating is, therefore, an act of stewardship over your spiritual inheritance, ensuring that it remains intact, potent, and conducive to growth. The wisdom of separation extends to your personal development. Growth requires intentionality, reflection, and focus. Exposure to influences that are not aligned with your vision or values can dilute your energy, fragment your attention, and delay progress. By separating from such influences, you create an environment that nurtures self-discipline, cultivates resilience, and encourages intentional growth. It allows you to invest your time and energy in activities, relationships, and environments that are consistent with your goals and aspirations. Separation in this context is not a retreat, but an advance, a strategic positioning that enables you to maximize your potential and accelerate your journey toward fulfillment. Separation also teaches discernment and responsibility. It forces you to evaluate every relationship, circumstance, and influence through the lens of alignment, purpose, and consequence. You become more intentional about who you allow into your space, what habits you cultivate, and how you protect your energy. This discipline builds wisdom, strengthens resolve, and instills a sense of ownership over your environment, decisions, and destiny. Over time, the practice of separation cultivates clarity, confidence, and consistency, allowing you to navigate life with focus and purpose, even in the face of external pressures or distractions.